in San Jose, PCCA Club. People are just starting to get ready. We're setting up still. People are still filing in. Aquarium Co-op fans, there's one right there. Oh, I can't go the right way. But the fish life is here. There's, well, I don't want to use people's names, but someone named Jennifer here. There's another person here. And so yeah, let's get this started.
Without any further ado, give Corey a round of applause again.
All right. Can everyone hear me in the back? Yes. Good, good. All right. So the longest days of my life were building a fish store. I had never worked that hard, and it's because you start managing people that you didn't know you were going to manage. All of a sudden you've got plumbers, you've got electricians, you've got guys building, and they're all, like, they've got lives and schedules, and, you know, what do you mean you want to take the weekend off because it's a Super Bowl? Like, time is money for me. Other people are working, some aren't. Permits are waiting on, stuff.
Corey.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
my bad. Now we're good. All right. So I started out with just this room, basically, and my whole store is 950 square feet, including these rooms over here. And what this was used for before I got there was a maid cleaning service. So if you called, they came and cleaned your house. They all had home base here. And so there were, like that vacuum, here's how you start your fish store. You use everything. That vacuum was left behind. We used that while you know, tearing down walls, because once you've vacuumed up all your drywall and stuff, you don't really want to use that vacuum anymore, but you got to use everything and save and scrimp. And then this is about, you know, a year later after I opened, and you can see people in the store. It's actually going well, and you know, kind of show how we got there, that type of thing. So this is a design that I didn't invent, but I clearly stole from someone, and that's what everyone does in business. Is you go, that's a good idea, I should do that. And then you go, hey, that's a horrible idea, don't do that. That's what you should be doing, analyzing who you think's doing things right and who you think are doing things wrong. And you get to know at the end of the day, was it good or bad, when you go, oh, it was profitable, or, oh, I get why they don't do what I was going to do. Like one of the biggest things everyone says, I'm going to start a fish store and I'm going to carry all the fish that I never see. And the reality is, you don't see them because no one's buying them. It's not that I don't want to sell you every rare fish that's ever been you know, discovered, and I have access to it, but if it sits in the store and no one's willing to pay $75 for this brown slug in the corner that no one can see, I'm out $75. So, but the cool part about my rack system, at least I think it's cool, is that all the tanks are only supported on their ends. Not a lot of people know that glass aquariums are designed to transfer all their weight down, and what that does, it allows you to save the cross space. And so when you're catching fish, you don't have a 2x4 like you normally would, and that allows you to get your eye level down and up so that you've got 3 tanks more in a viewing section as opposed to one way down low and then one that you have to get on a ladder to see. And so you start thinking about things like that. We painted all the wall black and all the backs black. We used black tubing so that hopefully it's going to all blend in. And then I started building my store. We signed the lease to this place 2 days before Christmas, and we asked if we could get, you know, kind of like, well, can we have a few weeks to move in? They gave us till January 1st. That was their big concession of like, yeah, we'll give you a couple of days if you're lucky, even though it's Christmas. So like, oh, thanks for the Christmas spirit there. But, so we start tearing walls down, and this is one of the most dangerous things you can do when you're building a store because you don't know what's behind the wall. And what you can't see in these pictures is these walls go around lights. Someone didn't follow code when they were building. And so the problem is whenever you touch something and I have to get occupancy and permitting, all of a sudden all these problems that were never a problem are now a problem. And so we had to move electrical and stuff like that. The next picture here, you can see what we're doing is we've got the first round was this. We thought, cut a hole this big, that'll be enough for a cash register. And then we go this big, and eventually you just make a cut. And you know, you hope you've done it right because you don't have a lot of money. I started my store with $50,000 in cash, and then a hope and a prayer, and a lot of buying used aquariums and old fish stores that have gone out of business. And it's kind of bittersweet to swoop in, buy a store that's going out of business, knowing that you're going to attempt to do what they just failed at. Like you just know it's already, you're going uphill. And so eventually you build something down here. So I wanted to build my store, I thought something different, and so I wanted everything to be hardwoods. And so everything, you know, I kind of get the co-op name as I want it to be sustainable, so I made it extra hard. All the wood that's used is sustainably actually cultivated up in Bellingham, kind of north from me. And it's been replanted, all those types of things, but it's hardwood with live edges. And then we still saved every drywall screw because there was another room divider right here. We had to tear that down, and we ended up reusing them. And you would think, that seems pretty petty, you're saving screws. But on that rack you saw me build, there's $200 just in buying washers and the nuts and the bolts to hold all that. And when you start making trips 5 times a day to hardware stores or Tacoma screw and stuff because Home Depot doesn't have enough of that anymore, you start really watching your pennies. And so we saved absolutely everything, and we repurposed and used as much as we could. And then eventually you end up with something like this, still very raw, but it's all hardwood, which looks nice. And we had a custom carved sign here, and that really led my businesses. I try to enjoy my tanks, I try to get my customers to enjoy their tanks. Don't enjoy what other people tell you to enjoy. Enjoy it in your own life. I truly do believe it's magical that we can keep a fish in our homes and breed them and let them thrive and things like that. So that kind of set the whole tone for the store of we want to just do everything we can, and we want to preserve nature, that type of thing. So you can see here we finally build out. So paint, like this paint was $5 a gallon at home, or $5 for 5 gallons at Home Depot, and that means I went to Home Depot every Friday to look at the oops paint. And why do you go on Friday? Because all the contractors, everyone else, did all their painting during the week, and they're making the returns on the weekend. And so normally that same thing of paint is $125 or whatever, and I get it for $5. And you show up to multiple Home Depots on the way to the store every day and going, well, that one's kind of, you know, diaper brown, that one's, you know, lime green, like maybe I could use a green. And eventually you stumble upon like a blue, and they always tint them so that like almost no one wants it. And so like, yes, I found the blue. And so it only took like about 2 weeks, and I had to start hunting for that way before we actually needed it, because otherwise you're going to end up paying for it. But electrical, that's one place you don't skimp because you can never go back. And so once you put in all your electrical, you're never going to tear everything down and go, you know, I shouldn't have run 1 billion extension cords and what you see in all fish stores. So luckily everything is on a switch, so I can walk in the morning and you flip all the switches, all the lights turn on, and then also everything's on a GFI. So if we have a heater that goes bad, it's going to pop and not get anyone harmed. And all my employees appreciate that. And you know, you go, well, how much does something like this cost? That's about $5,000 in work by the time you're running lines, and we were doing it as cheaply as possible as well. So, you know, you start just adding like, well, there's $5 grand, there's this and this, and you'll see how 50 grand goes pretty quick. You also got to put things in that you're never going to use, but you've got the guy there. So I've got 240 right there, thinking I'm going to run a giant blower to run this store. Well, it turns out I end up running a linear air piston pump, but it's only like 50 bucks more of $5,000. So, hey, now I'm ready for it. And so you can always repurpose later, but while you got the guy there, calling him back out costs 5 times as much, so he's already there. Plumbing is a funny issue when you build a fish store. So I share a complex of businesses, and there's like 1,000,001 dog-related things. There's literally like 5 dog spas. We have doggy daycares. We also have what's called splash dogs. That's where you take your dogs to go to the pool. And it's mostly so you can rehabilitate them from being hit by a car or something like that. But magically, out of all those places, I'm the only one that had to put in a meter because fish stores use a ton of water, is what they think. And the reality is they actually drain that pool every day. They use thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons more than I do. You know, but because each dog gets its own thing. But again, it's a problem. You got to put more stuff in, and yeah, you're only going, well, that's only about $300 for the stuff there. And luckily, my uncle's a plumber, so I was getting kind of cost instead of paying, you know, retail. But then I also like this. This looks like a giant mess, right? Well, it is. That's an indirect waste line. And the problem was, I started putting in my auto water change system in the store, and the city I'm in has no rules based on a fish store. They've got it for commercial kitchens, they've got it for salons, they've got it for anything that's using water except for a fish store. And their biggest fear was they break a main water line out somewhere and it siphons aquarium water into the drinking supply. And it's like, wow, that's pretty far-fetched. Like, by the time you're breaking that major of water mains, I'm pretty sure this is the least of your worries. But nevertheless, I couldn't get it signed off unless I put an indirect waste line. So that means when my water drains into there, it can't be hooked up. It has to free fall in so that if it sucked water, it would suck air. And the alternative was backflow assembly valves that had to be checked every 6 months, and I had one on each wall, and it was going to nickel and dime me till the end of time. But, you know, that story kind of goes more in depth when we get to the part where I'm actually building it. So then you've got my auto water change system. That's what this line is. So it's a 1/2-inch line, and these are drip irrigation. So like if you were going to water your garden or something like that. And each one runs to a tank, and each tank is drilled, and the water flows. So it works out really good because in a fish store, what you might not know yet, if you don't have that system and you're changing water once a week, usually it's about one full-time position. So 40 hours a week, someone's just changing water in the fish store, and that adds up to, if they're getting $10 an hour, $400 every week, you're paying someone just to change water, and no one ever goes back to put in the auto water change system because you can't afford to lose the sales to tear it down and rebuild it. So, you know, from the ground up, luckily I had run a store for 5 years before I built my own store, so I knew some of these things of like, I really want to do this, it's going to save me time and money. And then on the back part, you have the air line, and I just use the cheapy plastic valves. You drill a hole that's a little bit smaller, you plug it in, and it'll hold, and it works great for years and years. A lot of you have fish rooms probably same way. You can buy the nickel-plated ones, stuff like that. It also works. More labor-intensive to put in, and you know, these are like 1/10 the cost. So.
You can sleep at night?
Yeah, I sleep at night. I don't have any problems, so it works well for me. So this is what I ended up with. This is what, like, basically $50,000 and fighting with the city endlessly will get you. And the reason this slide is here is I had to set this entire thing up without them okaying it because they couldn't understand what I was trying to do. I wanted an auto water change system. They had never seen anything like that, and they wouldn't give me the permit to put it in. So they made the agreement that they would let me build it. If they liked it, they'll sign off. If they don't like it, I have to rebuild. And that's kind of, at that point, we're already months in, and there's no going back. Either A, I don't build it this way, and I don't open a fish store, or I build it, and if they don't like it, I fail. Or if by a miracle they say it's okay, it works. And that's luckily what happened. But they were, you know, my city, and it's by city, is very difficult. So much so that when we know that it was a maid service before me, right? They wanted me to do a whole traffic impact study on the road, which is like a major road, and you know, the 10 people per hour max I would ever bring would have no bearing, but you have to pull a permit when you want to do a traffic study, and that's what they want. And so, luckily, I was able to sit down and have meetings and eventually got them to waive that kind of stuff. But all the permitting in my city, anyone who works in construction stuff like this is going to laugh at this. Everything is based on the valuation of the project. So it's $125 or anything like that. They have to determine what they think your business is going to be worth. And so if you're Walmart, they're going to go, oh yeah, that's a $10,000 permit. If you're a small guy and they don't like you, maybe it's only $1,000. If they like you, maybe it's only $100. And luckily, the building inspector that walked through my place loved the fact that I was using hardwoods and crown moldings, because let's be honest, I'm a young guy. You guys are all looking at me going, this guy owns a fish store? There's no way. And they were doing the same thing to me, going, this guy, he's going to put in something just looks bad. And Edmonds is kind of a well-to-do place, and I had no reason to be there as far as they're concerned until I finally got them in the store, and they go, hey, I think this is going to be pretty nice. So luckily, that worked. And then also, the last thing to show here is I use the cheapest lighting available. These are what you get on 10-gallon kits, and use the corkscrew bulbs that you put in, and you buy them $1 a piece at Home Depot or whatever you're going to do, because, you know, they cost about $12 with those bulbs per tank, and there's 42 tanks here, And you start going, that's $600 just to put the worst lighting available, and even a fluorescent tube was way more expensive. So, you know, you cut corners where you can. So it also, the 50 grand also bought me, you know, some planted tanks, and I bought this from a fish room, and the tanks and everything. So, you know, I only had about $700 into that, which is pretty good. But that was how sad the plant selection and stuff was, because you're broke when you open the store. And then, does anyone know why this picture is here? This is very important. What do you got?
You said it in one of your videos. You said that all fish stores should have a fridge so the customers could buy frozen food.
That's right. So this, per square foot in a fish store, is where you'll make the most money. If you're doing your job right, every customer is going to pick up frozen food every time they're there, and that's what brings them in. You can't go online, you can, but it's really difficult to buy your frozen online. So if you can get your customer onto frozen foods and they come in, you've got the chance, and that's the chance and the opportunity to actually sell them some fish, which that's getting harder and harder these days. You can order anything online, plants, fish, but it's really hard to order frozen food, and per square foot, it doesn't take up much space at all, and it makes a ton of money. So that's one of the best things you can do, is get yourself a nice fridge. Now it's way cheaper to go buy yourself a $100 chest freezer, except it doesn't display and it's much harder to sell. Something like this from Hikari is about $700, and this is like a little one that would sit on a counter. It's not huge, but they will fill it with fish food for you, and by the time you sell all the fish food, it pays for it. And obviously they got their logo and everything, but that's one of the places you don't want to skimp, because you can't lose to online. You can if they're buying in massive bulk, but they're probably not buying their stuff from you anyway if they're buying 12 flat packs at a time or something. So yeah, make sure this is in a great spot right in the front of your fish store, because people are going to buy it. So this is what the front of my store looked like. I had to do a lot of filling in because there's holes. I ran out of money, right? And so you've got these big ferns, live plants, and I've got my big display tank that I bought on Craigslist for $2,000, and it's a 340-gallon tank, and it's all rosewood here. It's absolutely amazing, and I've got fish and plants in there, you know, so it's okay. And another little tip, if you have a store or opening a store, put seating in up front, because typically there's one person in the family that absolutely loves fish, and then there's the people that came with them, and it's just like when you're shopping for clothes with your wife or the kids. You go do your thing, I'm going to sit here, and then let me know when it's done being horrible. And so give them something to do. You know, I put a couple of magazines and make it so it's tolerable. And it's been proven in research that every minute you can get someone to sit there, you have more chance. It like goes up by like $5. And so if you can get 5 more minutes on someone not being ultra bored and having to stand there in a hot, sweaty fish store, you really are going to push your average transaction up. And that's what I got for 50 grand. Is I've got, you know, paper up on the window, and at this point, I've run out of money. People are beating down the door because people have driven by and says, hey, since there's an aquarium, that type of thing. And so we eventually decide we have to open the doors. We've run out of money, and people are going to start rioting. The local club is like, you've been building for like 3 months. And it's because I want to do everything right. You know, tomorrow you could set up 50 fish tanks, but redoing all your electrical and plumbing and permitting. And the permitting thing is the worst. I had a bathroom sign that says restroom, right? And I put it, so if I was walking this way, you would see it. My door to go into the bathroom is from this side, so you'd have to walk in this way. Well, the law states it has to be on the left-hand side at 5 feet, no matter what. And so the reason being is if you were blind, you know to look for there, and it's going to tell you, oh, it's a bathroom, not an exit in a fire. The problem is, because I put it where you could see it, I then had to book another week out for the fire marshal to walk back through. They won't let you change something while they're there. So everything you mess up, they basically punish you by a week. And yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff you don't know is a problem yet when you're building a fish store. And you will learn lots of things about ADA requirements on like, oh, this table, it's 30 inches? It's got to be 36 or it's not legal. So my first year, or my first month, I made almost, $10,000, which might seem like a lot to some, might seem like nothing to anyone else, but it gives you, you know, I always wanted to know, I could never find this when I was opening a store, like what do I expect? The first month you open, I was able to do $10,000, which kept the doors open. Obviously I'm here today, but it goes really quick, because if you think, okay, we made $10,000, let's say you sold dry goods and fish, let's say that cost you half, so you got $5,000, rent's another $1,000, so now you're at $4,000, and you've got power, you've got internet, you've got all these things. Maybe you want to buy that freezer or whatever it is. And the moral of the story is I didn't pay myself a wage for over a year, like nothing. Had to live off my wife's wage, and luckily she was willing to do that. But it does get better. It does get better. So here we have month two. Month two, I didn't go out of business. I got up to 13,000, and 10,000 to 13,000 it's like winning the Super Bowl. That extra money is so important to be able to fill in all the gaps you have on your shelves and things like that. That's what people don't realize. If you're right on the edge of almost going out of business, a subtle gap, you know, it's $3,000. If everyone in this room spent $100 at their fish store, that's the difference between them having Christmas presents for their family and not. So that's why it's always, we're pushing people to shop their local stores when you can, that type of thing. And so you learn a lot of things. I've got a lot of analytics, kind of the new way I do businesses. I want analytics on everything. I was actually closed on Thursdays when I first opened, and that was intentional. It's because I know we still had half a store to build. I only got to build half a store at that point. And so every Thursday I'd get, you know, tradesmen back in, and we'd work on the next section with every dollar I could cobble together. And you can also see here, we start selling stuff before noon. I'm open noon to 8 every day is where I'm open. And you can see, so I'm dealing with the public before noon, and I'm still dealing with the public after 8. And so if you open a fish store, you're probably there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, and realize you're probably not eating dinner till 9:30 when you get home. And it's a very hard schedule. It's very hard on your body and your mood, because you got to be chipper the next day, right? You know, it's like, oh, we're making money, we got a fish store, we're building, people are coming, and it's a grind for sure. And that's where I say, trading your social life for a business. If you clock out at 8 and you just close the door and walk out, you're never going to get farther ahead, and you're always behind in the fish store. There's always something sick, there's always the next project, stuff like that. And so if you're not willing to work those hours or have enough capital to get enough employees to do that, you're going to struggle, in my opinion. So something like this here, that's about, you know, to get that installed. So that wasn't in the original plan or anything like that, in that $50,000, but just to have this up here, storage built, and the metal. And it just so happens I was building all of this like on the back of all the hurricanes and natural disasters we were having. So like this steel that we got, we had to make multiple trips because we were being rationed how much we could buy at each trip. It was insane. Same with plywood. And you would think you'd take that for granted, but it was actually hard to get the materials. So something like this, by the time it's all built, is about $4,000. And you're going, there's only a few lights on there. The lights themselves aren't that expensive, but by the time you pay someone to install it and you build it and you get it looking nice, it seems, you know, that's what that extra $3,000, that's your next expansion for the rest of your store. And it probably takes you 2 months to be able to afford that. So the other thing you can do to kind of get bang for your buck is buy nice cabinets off of Craigslist. I bought 3 of them, 2 different times, you know, so from 2 different trips. And what you do is you find them made out of solid wood, and they're going to cost you $200 or $300. And then you pull the back off of them, you put pegboard, and then you run super cheap LED lighting all the way around to illuminate it. And now you've got a 4-foot section of your store built out for like $300, which if you've ever built out retail, that's essentially free. That's so cheap. And it happened to be the wood look I was already going for, so that's great. You know, but the other thing this photo represents is I see it in a lot of stores a lot of times. Their shelves are way too deep front to back. So if you have this table right up front here, it's about 24 inches, and you put a bottle of Prime on it, and let's say you sell 1 bottle of Prime a week, and you go, well, I'll have 3 on the shelf. It looks like you can't afford to have more, which you probably can't at the beginning of your fish store. But if you make those shelves narrow, and it only holds 3 bottles of Prime, now you look like you're fully stocked. And so you'd much rather have very narrow shelves that always look full, and then boxes of product in the back, than it looks like an empty warehouse when you walk in and go, oh, are you open? So, you know, be very mindful how deep you make shelves. And that's one of the best tips in retail you can get. Narrow shelving means you have to invest less. Now, I'm on the opposite problem of like, I want to store like 40 of these things because we're selling tons. But at the beginning, I would have never gotten there without making the narrow shelving. So this is kind of just the more of the racks I did. So you can see here, this was very beginning of the store. I've got heaters and pumps and stuff like that. Eventually, we move it over to here. And this is kind of a cool product I stumbled upon. It's slat wall, and what that means is it has slats in it and you can hook hooks. But for a fish store, they actually make it out of PVC. And so you never have to worry about water, because anyone who's used pegboard knows once it touches water in a fish store, it's useless. And so you can get it out of PVC. That's super cool. You just order on Amazon of all places. And then the last thing in this picture right here, this is the 6 inches of space between this doorway and that doorway. You got to utilize every space. So I found the products. It just so happened that all my magnet scrubbers and all that kind of stuff fit there, because I've only got 950 square feet and 50,000 won't build that out. So you can imagine when you go, I'm going to do 3,000 square feet. It's going to cost you 300 grand probably to do it. And most people run out of money. That's the biggest thing. Or they start with debt. That's the other thing is you take out a $300,000 loan, and month one you've only made $10,000 and you owe the bank 3 grand already. Like you're already in a I'm behind scenario from month one on. And so that's where you don't want to be. So cobble it together as much as you can, scrimp and save. And so here's where my store evolved. This is another fish room buy, that type of thing. You can see I've got the rubber plant. We've lost the fern, so I was able to put in that section that was over here we saw earlier. And you can see my Mubu puffers there now. I could afford to buy more rainbow fish. There's wild-caught angels. There's something like 500 rummy nose in there. So, you know, it's a nice display tank for whatever it is. I've got art and that type of thing. And everything's going okay at that point. And then you have this. The tank blew a seam. So this is a 340-gallon tank. It blew the seam, and it wasn't a trickle. So the back panel blew off, and it moved the tank several feet from the wall. So the next picture here, you can see this is where it sat when we showed up that morning to go to the wholesaler. It came that far off the wall. It was snug against the wall. And you're seeing, wait, are those bodies? Those are all dead bodies. And so what happened is this panel gives way, it shoves that tank forward, but because there's enough mass to move a 340-gallon fish tank kind of full of water, then goes through your store like a tidal wave, and there's a mark on the wall where it put sand up onto the wall, and then it rushed all the way back. And there was dead bodies and stuff like that all the way in the back in the bathroom. So that's 50 feet back, and everything is just coated in sand, water, and dead bodies. And this is really what should have put me out of business. And you can see right there, it kills me. That's a wild-caught angel right there. There's, you know, there was plecos, there's all kinds of stuff. Luckily, that puffer, because he was so big, the panel didn't open enough. He stayed there and stayed out of water for 2 hours and lived through it. That's the amazing part of that story. And I've got some pictures of that, not in this presentation, but that guy was a trooper and one of my best friends, honestly. Me and that fish have been through a lot. And, but this was the worst day of my life, actually, because you walk into your fish store. So here's what happened is, we and an employer driving to meet, we're going to go hand pick fish, okay? And so I get a message before I left my house that my camera system is out. And usually, okay, power flickers, something like that. Like, we'll check it when we get there. But you pull up to park, and the window is all foggy. And we run lots of dehumidifiers, so that shouldn't be. That means water's on the floor. And so we open it, and it's just a bloodbath of water standing. Well, there's already water out on the parking lot. And so you open up, it's carnage everywhere. And there's 1 or 2 fish flopping, you're saving them, and you do that. And then you go, well, what now? You know, like, do you call insurance? If I call insurance, they're going to shut down the store, cut out the drywall, I'll lose all the sales for the next month and a half, because insurance, if any of you have dealt with that, they don't move too quick, you know? So what we do is, the first thing I can think of is call one of those water companies, right? Restoration or something. Like, they gotta do something. So I call them, and of course, there's like no power on because it knocked out the power and I haven't had a chance. So I pull it up on my phone, I call them, and I go, how soon can you be here? And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, we have an appointment for tomorrow or the next day. I'm like, no, there's water on the floor now. And they say, well, we don't do that. We come in after the damage has been done. We don't come in to help damage from being done. And so I go, is there anyone that does that? He's like, no, we come in after the fact. And so then I'm going, okay, now what do I do? Because now I really have nothing I can do. And so I call everyone I know, so that's my wife, that's the person that helped me build, that's all my employees, and I go, I don't know, grab shop vacs and stuff, like we'll do stuff. And so I run to Home Depot, which is like 10 minutes away, and I rent a rug doctor, because I just don't know what else to do. Like, I just don't know what to do. So I get back, we got the rug doctor going, and then I realize I flooded both units next to me. It's a tattoo parlor, and it's a floral place. And so that's the next, oh my God, now I'm really gonna get sued for a lot of money moment. And so then I'm trying to look up their phone numbers to call them, because at this point it's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and the tattoo place doesn't open until noon, and the floral place, they do weddings and stuff, they kind of show up whenever they want. And neither of them will answer the phone. And here I am trying to tell them, like, I flooded your businesses, I need to get in and, I guess, assess how much I'm gonna go out of business, but I can't get a hold of them. So then that's the worst pit you've ever had in your stomach, knowing that you're cleaning up your disaster, which is already like maybe game ending, but you've now maybe ruined 2 other businesses, or might be getting sued or something like that. Eventually they stroll in at about 11:30 or so, and you get each one. The first one comes in, and we actually get in, and they're like, oh, there's some water here, if you clean it up it'll be no problem. So it's like, oh my God. Okay, so we get one employee working over there to do that. The next one rolls in, it's a floral place. They're like, oh, is there water on the floor? I don't even care. So I dodged 2 bullets there, which either one of them should have ended my, well, there's 3 bullets coming at me. There's my store, and there's those 2. Those 2 missed me. I still had to deal with this. And, you know, everything in the store had to come out. Every shelf, everything, because there's water, and it's just gonna be a giant mold fest. And so we used the rug doctor. I ended up buying a commercial dehumidifier off Craigslist. We bought carpet blowers, because I started calling around to rent these things, and turns out a commercial dehumidifier is like $100 a day to use, and I don't know how long it's going to take to dry this place out. I've never put 340 gallons of water on a carpet before. So luckily it was carpet on cement, so it was relatively easy to get that water out, but still, you've got a nervous pit in your stomach going, well, the landlord doesn't know yet, these people seem to be cool with it. Meanwhile, noon hits, what's going on in here, Corey? Oh, do you need some help? Or, oh, what happened? And that, because it's still business as usual, so people are showing up the whole time, they want to take a look, and you're just, you know, you're kind of just out of your mind going, ah, it's not today. And then they start asking, so later at about 2, everything we own is like on the sidewalk at this point. And we brought in a van to load that up, but that's all loaded up. And so yeah, what I learned is buy water equipment. So that means dehumidifiers, shop vacs. I actually own a rug doctor now, because this is gonna happen like once a year in your fish store. Maybe not 340 gallons, but just this last year, if you're watching on my YouTube channel, I came into 40 gallons of water on the floor. And let me tell you, 40 gallons of water is enough to do this whole area up here that's a giant wet spot. And if it goes into the next room, you've got neighbors that aren't happy with you. So,
do you still have carpet? You haven't taken it out? And just...
No, I do. I do still have carpet. And so I'm glad you asked the question. I would tell every fish store, put in carpet. And you're going, you are insane. But I want you to put in carpet, commercial grade, directly on concrete. No underlayment pads. So that way no one's slipping. Everyone thinks you want tile or something like that. You're gonna have employees slipping all the time, and at least in my area, it's kind of notorious. A fish store, oh yeah, you have concrete floor with water on it the whole time. So you're trying to give the illusion that you're better than that, but it's actually really grippy. And luckily that carpet was already in here when we got here, so we're like, well, we don't have to pay for it. It was glued down that we would have to pull it up and then resurface the concrete. It would cost us more money to get rid of it, so we left it, and it turns out it's amazing, but don't put in underlayment pads and all that, because that's going to get shot in like seconds. So don't do that. So yeah, this is my fish store right here. Hadn't even set up any display tanks or anything like that. All this down here, this slide in here is to show this. This was all false bottom, knowing that when water hits the floor, we got to get in there. And this is where I store all my gravel and stuff like that. But they all have removable panels. Everything in a fish store has to be off the ground, because 5 times a year, water is going to touch it. Any place, just look at it and go, I yell at my employees all the time, that's on the floor. When that tank lets go, we're losing $700 in product. And so you just have to get everyone trained. Nothing's actually resting on the floor ever, because it doesn't matter if a customer spilled a bucket of water because they're bringing you fish or whatever it is, it's going to ruin product, and that's just the way you have to do it. So then I get the replacement tank. So that whole fiasco that I just spent way too long talking about cost me about $15,000. And so when you think about profits, that's probably 6 months. That literally brought my bank account down, the business bank account, so close to not being alive anymore that it was very scary to all of a sudden be like, well, I don't know if I can order fish this week and stuff like that. But eventually we dug and clawed our way back out of that. And about 6 months later, we were able to buy this big tank. And this tank's on its side. So this is front to back here. And because it's 4 feet front to back, 6 feet long, and 2 feet tall, that's the only way it fits through a door. And so this time I went with acrylic. Acrylic is much stronger. Hopefully won't cost me $15,000 again when it explodes and makes me want to give up. But yeah, so eventually you start making some money. And this is last year. And this is what I always wish people would actually share, because everyone scripts around like, are you making money? How are you doing? I have no idea. You ask in their store and they, if you're a store owner and you ask in their store owner, of course you just made $10 billion last month, because you never want to show your week or whatever. But this is legitimately what I'm doing. So you can see different sales days here and different days of the week. And so you can see lots of money is happening on a Sunday, lots of money is happening on a Saturday, and then some on a Friday. All of these, not so much. So I'm always flabbergasted when I see stores closed on a Sunday. And it's just, most people have that day off, and I realize there's a lot of people that don't, but closing on one of those big sales days, if you can imagine if I was closed on a Sunday, yeah, you're gonna get some more people on a Saturday, and you're gonna get some more people on a Monday, but already if you talk to my staff on a Saturday, they're going, there's already 3 people working. We can't fit more salespeople and more customers. Already there's a line to get in sometimes. And so you have to keep those days open. I myself would tell you, working on Sunday is not optional. It's a must-do if you want to be able to actually turn profit. There's a lot of people that don't need to turn a profit at a fish store, and that's fine. But if you need to turn a profit, you gotta be open on a Sunday, and you gotta work. Everyone wants to deal with the owner. You guys have done this. You go into the store and you're like, well, I want to talk to the owner because the owner gives me a deal. Or, the employee goes, you got to talk to the owner about that. They're trying to cut out the middleman. So you got to be there every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was for basically the last 4.5 years. And now I'm finally starting to get away so I can start talking and doing my YouTube thing and that type of stuff. But, there's days you can see here, we're doing a little over 4,000, and some stores like a PetSmart are going, well, we did 45,000, whatever. But it's all about profit margin. It's all about how much money actually made it to the bank account after you paid all your employees, you paid all the taxes, you bought all the product, you made all your wrong decisions. There's a lot of that too, where it's like, oh, that was a bad buy. But you can still see here, even today, you can see all our money right after we open, and then it kind of just dwindles down. We're still selling stuff almost close to 9. And that's when now I have a bunch of employees. As an owner, you're willing to stay and you're willing to go, yes, we're getting another $200, it's perfect. But as someone that's got a dinner date or something like that, they're kind of like, all right, have you made your selections? We need to go. And so that's really hard on the employees because they don't directly see that benefit so much as an owner would. So it still kind of makes sense to be there later in the day, even though I'm not. I'm there less than ever, but now I'm kind of doing the online.
Corey, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you go back real quick?
Definitely.
So obviously December is Christmas.
Yep.
I see Valentine's Day on there, I don't know, President's Day, St. Patrick's Day. What are the sales peaks on the rest of the year?
So the rest of the year, so these are typically the spikes like this in a single day would be someone buying a big tank.
So it's not like that is a good day for purchases year after year after year. It's just a coincidence.
Not usually, yeah. It's really hard to predict. We're open, so the rule is we're only ever closed on Christmas. Christmas Eve we're open a half day. Every other holiday, a lot of people will close for holidays, and especially if school closes down, it's going to be like it's Saturday to you. So when President's Day happens and everyone's going, what are we going to take the kids to do? Go to the fish store. You gotta be open, and that's where you can get. And each year it's going to be different. You're like, how come March, whatever, we did this, and then we didn't do that this year? It's like, well, last year, this holiday fell on that day. That's why we did that. And then there's always the guy that just walks in every once in a while and goes, I'd like a 300-gallon tank, and I'd like all the filtration, all the heaters, all that kind of stuff. And then they just hand you your credit card, walk back out, you order it, and it's the best day of your life. And you go, why can't they all be like this?
Corey, so I have a question about this slide also.
Yeah.
You show your sales for your hours open on that bottom right graph. And I would say that what that shows me is while you're open, you're actually doing pretty well.
Yep.
And it's hard to say if you were to move that, say, to 10 to 6, it would look the same. I guess that's my question, because the biggest drop off I see is actually later in the evening, but
Yep.
you open the door, people are waiting. So if they're going to be waiting at 9, you could go home earlier.
Yes, in theory. So we have tested that, and that's how I know the answer is we've tested that, and in our area, we have Microsoft, we have Amazon, we have Boeing, we have all these things with certain schedules, and basically my target customer has a full-time job. And they have to go to work, and traffic is absolutely terrible till about 7 o'clock at night. So a lot of times, what you're not seeing is, this is an overall on the entire year, but those people with those kinds of jobs, they make those big spike purchases, like, oh, that's happening at 7:30 at night. And it's because they got off work, they worked hard, whatever, and they go, just swipe the card, I want it, I'm tired. They're always meaning to get it done, they're not getting it done. And we tested opening earlier, we tested closing earlier, and I ran a store that was 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. every day, and the sales were a lot less. Obviously different store, but you get to know by the people calling, when they call, well, how late are you open? And you say 6, and they go, oh. Are you open tomorrow? And that's a clue right there that, okay, I'm not open late enough. And that almost never happens now at 8 o'clock if they call and like, oh, you close at 8? Okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow. Because they already know, they're not expecting 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I have competitors that are open till 9 or 10. And whenever I've gone there, after I close, it's a ghost town. And so that is the best thing you can do is go visit your competitors. Like if you open at noon and you think, oh man, if I opened at 10, I just get to go home earlier. Go watch the parking lot of your competitor and how busy are they at 10 a.m. If they're slammed, guess what? You need to be open at 10. But from my research and actual shopping patterns of people, I found that whether it's noon or 10 is the same to most of those clients. And so I categorize them as people that have a list of things to get done that day. And they might have to go, okay, I need dog food, I'm gonna need this fish stuff, and I gotta go to the laundry and all that. And if you open at 10, you're just earlier in the list. If you open at noon, you're just later in that list. There's very few people that are like, finally, I can come to your fish store at 10 because, later than that, I'm busy. That's a rarity. So just in my testing, you have to test your local market, but in general, I find a lot of people love that we do stay open late. And maybe that applies more to San Francisco than it does to the middle of Ohio, for instance. But, definitely look at your market. And I just know that at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, if someone got off work at 5, they couldn't physically make it to my store by 6. It would be impossible with the traffic. We have like LA traffic, like horrible. And so, because I used to work that job way before I worked in a fish store. I had that 9 to 5 job. And I would call the guy that I ended up working for the minute I got off work and said, if I drive nonstop, it says I can be there in 52 minutes. And you could just tell the disdain on the other end of the phone of like, I'll see you in 52 minutes, and it's like, because that's the other thing is no one likes to be, there's a lot of people that like to be polite, and I have the same thing, like, oh, that restaurant closes at 10 because I get off work late. And I'm going, well, I don't want to sit down at 9:30 because then I'm that guy that's going to eat all the way till 10 and they want to go home. And so you're actually building in the padding of that extra nice guy feel, at least for me. I mean, I try to do things the way I shop and stuff like that, and so far it's worked out really well for me. And then I back it up with testing and analytics. What I find crazy is a lot of store owners I'll talk to, all they have is a normal cash register, and they can go, I can tell you how much money I made, but I can't tell you what time of day or how many transactions or like I focus on how much people are spending each transaction. I'm at about $51 right now. So the average transaction is about $51, which is great. When I first opened the store, that was about $32. And the way you elevate that is carry more expensive products. So the more times people pull that FX6 canister filter that has no profit margin because you're selling it for the same price as Amazon, you can still inflate it a bit, and eventually they do buy products that you have some profit margin on. So that's one of the easiest ways. A lot of people focus on getting more people through the door, more people through the door also requires more people on the floor to sell to them. And so that gets expensive quick, and the minute you misjudge, like, yeah, I'll put 5 people on the floor, what do you mean we only did $300 in sales today? Like, we paid more employees than we made, and that's the riskiest part, so.
Now, do you stay open longer on the weekends?
Nope, we actually close a little bit early on Sunday. So Sunday is noon till 6, and it's because all the other businesses everywhere around me close at 6, and so people were shocked. They're like, "Oh wait, you're open? Oh, we didn't think you'd even be open." And people are winding down on a Sunday night, and so yeah, and part of it is, what do you want the spiel your employees to say? Is, oh, we get to tell everyone we're open noon to 8 every day except Sunday noon to 6. Super easy to remember. There's a lot of stores that have different hours on different days, and I have asked our customers, and no one can remember them. They're going, yeah, I think Tuesday they're 3 to 7, and then on that day it's like 10 to 9 or something. And the reality is way different. But if the customer can't keep it straight, what good is it doing you if every time they have to call you to figure out when you're open? So I try to make it nice and streamlined. So if I was going to make a change, the most change I would make is open at 11. I would still stay open till 8. So I would get in an extra hour, and every day would be 11 and on from then on. But as a small business owner, half the reason I opened at noon is I want that time in the morning. I go to the airport 3-4 times a week. I go to the wholesalers, I hand pick fish. So if I get there at 8 a.m., I start picking fish, they start bagging it. It takes me an hour to drive back to the store. I want to get them into quarantine tanks before the customers are helping you. Like, what do you got here? Ooh, wait, what's this one? And you're just trying to, like, we open in 12 minutes. So there's more strategic things going on than just making more sales. You want a good workflow for yourself and your employees also. And we actually, all the employees get there 30 minutes before we open. We're washing black worms, we're checking for any dead bodies, we're vacuuming, we're doing all these types of things. And you're gonna do that at the end of the day, beginning of the day. And once you push that out too much, you end up having to run 2 different shifts. And so now you've got twice as many employees to cover the same day. And I, myself, and my employees don't like 6-hour days, because all of a sudden it's like you're working but not getting a full work day, and you're trying to leverage that. And that's where a lot of people lose their employees. They're going, well, I'm not really making enough to live, and you can't really afford to run 2 people at 8-hour days and stuff like that. So, any more financial questions? All right, well, we can always come back to it too. So then I launched online, right? And so here, we basically started online sales, and I already had my YouTube channel, which my YouTube channel has, at the time of today, about 46,000 people that are subscribed, and we've got 7,000 on Facebook and that kind of thing. So I already had like a following to start monetizing. And, so at the very beginning, we're making almost no money. And as you see here, it ratchets up pretty good until we start hitting November. I did an 8-hour live stream on YouTube. And, we did $37,000 online, and I don't have the right slide, but you would have known that in the store we only did $30,000. So we did more online than we did in store, and the profit margin's fairly close. So it works out pretty nice. So then we have a good, so after November, we actually switched to a whole different point of sale and stuff like that, and that's your own fiasco and nightmare and pain you have probably never encountered yet. Switching point of sale, it drops barcodes, it makes everything horrible. We went to breakfast this morning, and their point of sale system wasn't working, and that place came to a crashing halt because it didn't work. And you're like, computers, they do things, and everyone's just angry and hungry. But we start doing pretty good. This is all the way till a few days ago. We're doing pretty good, at the $83,000 mark, you're $1 million business, so we're almost there. And there's other income streams for the business, like YouTube pays me, and there's some other things as well, but the online really started ratcheting it up, and all I did was sell products I already had in the store. It's not like I went and said, okay, here's the big push, we're gonna sell this stuff we never sold before. It was just simply, well, we sell a sponge filter in the store, why not start selling it online and teaching people about it, and that type of thing. And so we had almost no risk going in. And this month, we had very few sales, but there was still more than if we didn't have it at all. And so you might go, well, you only made $500, and then like these months might have been $3,000 and $9,000, and then up it went. And so now this is the combined. We're looking at about $76,000 or something like that. And for a 5-person crew, and now I've got video editor and an accountant and all that kind of stuff. It turns out that I can pay my employees fairly well. The minimum wage isn't legally 15 yet, but the Home Depot down the street will start people at $14.50, so it's expensive to have employees. Even the high school kid we have, that's everyone kind of expects that kind of wage. And so, we've also got retirement for the employees and stuff like that. And that was my big goal when I started Aquarium Co-op was I want to create the fish store I want to shop at and the one that I want to work for, and my employees can actually raise a family, because I was stuck in a fish store working, no hope to ever buy a house or anything like that. And so that's what happens is you get people that are very passionate and they know they can't make a living, so then they just become like, your club president or something like that. They're still active in fish, but they got to go make a living somewhere else. Yeah. And that was me. I was in my fish store and I was on the board of directors of my club, and I couldn't love fish more, and yet here I am looking at it going, so I was at 29 at that point, I'm going to be 30, and I am years away of doing anything that would actually start getting my life kind of on track. Don't get me wrong, I knew exactly, okay, it's another 242 days before I can buy another 300-gallon aquarium with the fish I want. That I knew, but I didn't know how am I ever going to buy a house, kind of want a new car, kind of want health insurance. Like, that's kind of a luxury that's nice to have that no fish store provides, myself included so far. I'm working on it though. But yeah, it's working, it's coming, but so those are things I set from the beginning. How can I make it so that it's a sustainable thing, not only for the environment, for employees, and I've had great employee retention, and the goal is to be the polar opposite of a chain store where it's like, okay, we're gonna work you for 6 months, you're gonna get tired of what we do, and the next person's already in line behind you. We'll replace you, you don't know a whole lot. And then you find the one person knew a whole bunch and they leave because they actually are successful in life and want to make something of themselves. So we didn't want to be that at all. And so far it's working out great. That being said, maybe I come back and I speak in a year and I go, oh, it all went wrong, which I wouldn't be able to afford to come back anymore. But, so far it's going pretty good. So then you got to come up with lots of, what's up?
What was the cost of entry to go online and get those?
The cost of entry?
Yeah.
So we switched our point of sale, so that was, basically it was about $100. And you would say like, how is it so cheap? You literally, if there's 3 bottles of Prime on the shelf, because we switched the point of sale, when someone bought it in the store, it also took it off the online site. And so all of a sudden, every item you had is now for sale online as well. And you would just pull it each day, and now we've got so much inventory, it's not a problem. But at the beginning, like, what do you mean you've only got 3 of these? And someone bought 3 bottles online. Like, now my retail store is sold out. But you'd rather sell 3 bottles online than only sell 1 in the store, hoping you don't run out. It's always better to get money in your hand than not.
What does that mean to say, I changed the point of sale?
Okay, so we were using Square, something super duper easy. It takes 2.75%. When they swipe a card, no matter what kind of card it was, 2.75%, it works for the retail store only. We switched to Shopify, and Shopify is basically that same thing, but also after a few button clicks, you can make a website, and the same thing is happening. So we swipe, it changes inventory, it's the same rate online, people can order, and it lets us know in the morning, we're gonna pack it up, we're gonna ship it. There's a little bit of cost in that. Once we got going, all of a sudden, like now I think in the warehouse we have 5 different printers, 3 different iPads, scanners, we've got software to handle tracking numbers and stuff like that. But when you wake up and you go, hey, I gotta ship 1 bottle of fish food today, you can print it on your normal inkjet printer from home or the store, whatever you got, throw it in a box and go, great, starting the day off right, got a sale already. So, but ideas, that's where you really grow your business, and this was one of the ones I had when I very first started my business, and I thought it was a good one that everyone should do because it's super cheap, and that is, and even today, like right now I have multiple business cards on me, but each one of these does something different. The brown one sat on my counter at the register, you pick it up, oh, you're Corey McElroy, you're the owner, Aquarium Co-op, okay, I've got a card. The other ones, they did things though, like this blue one. The blue one is, on the back it says, bring to my store for a free package of frozen bloodworms. And the goal was, you show up to a meeting, you go, you never been to my store? Here, come see me. Even if you hate my store, you like bloodworms, right? Your fish do. And that was to get them in the door, and it worked great. What I didn't know when I did it is that this is also the best thing when Petco and PetSmart employees love your store and they want to send people your way. All they got to do is put their initials on the back, and now I hand them $5 store credit to my store. Everyone that gets redeemed, you're going, well, that sounds like a lot. But for getting new customers, that's the cheapest ever. I got to give a package of bloodworms to them, and I give $5 store credit to the person who referred them, and now I've got a new customer that if I did my job right, they love my store. If they don't, that's fine. You know, maybe you're an African cichlid guy and I don't carry any African cichlids, so it's not a match made in heaven. Let me explain it. My tech product.
He sells monkeys.
To be fair, I do have cichlids at home in my own personal fish building. You know, I brought in African cichlids, and you can go back on the YouTube channel and you can see it, and you can see that one, my employees just didn't want to sell it because everyone wants to buy. I want to buy the one colored up peacock, and I want to talk to you about it for 4 hours, and then I want to yell at you when my fish kill it, you know, and I want a refund. And it was like employees were literally starting to revolt because African cichlids are very cheap wholesale. And there's a great profit margin. On every level on paper, you should sell African cichlids all day long. They make you infinite money. But in practice, they're killing each other. People are killing them at home. They want a little bit extra, you know. So if it was up to me, I would have an insane selection of Tanganyika cichlids. I love Tanganyika cichlids, but I read a lot of stuff. But anyway, you know, bribe your local PetSmart employees and Petco employees. And, you know, you don't want every customer. That's what some people don't realize. You don't want the person that wants only $1 fish. You want the person that walks into PetSmart and go, hey, do you have Tanganyika cichlids? Do you have Epistogrammas? Do you have this? And when you say, no, we don't, and they can say, but you know who does? Ocean Aquarium or Bob's Fish Place or whatever it is. And they hand them a card. And you would think like, well, aren't they going to get fired? The managers were doing it too, because they're fish nerds. They want free stuff, and they're going, it's not like we told them go buy your neon tetras from them. But that's really what they're doing, because once they walk into a real fish store, as I call it, they're going, wow, I didn't know it could look this good. So, you know, it was a good idea that I didn't know was a good idea then. And then I had the last card here, which I think that's the next slide. This is all my gift cards. And so it was, because what you probably don't know yet, if you use Square or point of sale system, what do you mean each gift card is $2 for that plastic thing? That's why they charge you sometimes at some stores, and you're going $2, and you only want a $10 gift card, and by the time you buy $10 in food, there was only $5, and then, so it's only $3, and you paid with a credit card, so now it's like $2.50. Pretty soon, you can like, there's scenarios where you end up losing money selling a gift card that's too cheap. And so that card itself, when you have it printed in bulk, was like a penny, you know? And so yeah, that's just, you gotta think of ways and always have cards on you and hand them out and meet people, stuff like that. So the next big thing, no one likes it, but you're gonna have to work on social media and reputations and stuff like that. Yelp can kill you or make you great. The same, when I land, instantly what do? I go to Yelp and I go, what are the reviews stores have? And I'll read farther than most people will. I'll go, well, they're not getting great reviews, but oh, turns out they have a bunch of fish I like. You know, that's great. You know, you guys might all be hating on them because they don't carry African cichlids, but they're the guppy mecca of the world, and I love it. So, you know, but it's a real grind, you know, to get 49 reviews that are going to stick. And here's the thing you don't know. If you're ever really dissatisfied with the store, leave them the bad review if they deserve it. And a lot of times they'll reach out and make it okay. I'm willing to spend almost up to $1,000 to get that back off there because this brings me so much money and traffic because it's going, you know, oh, the ratings are great. We should come to this fish store. Why not? And, you know, and you can never please anyone. So even though we've got 49 reviews and 4.5 stars, literally someone left us a 1-star review because I'm not on enough social media. I'm pretty sure I'm the most social media of a fish store out there. You know, besides maybe Bulk Reef Supply. You know, but it's like, you can't please everyone, obviously, so.
So what you're saying is next time we're in Washington, we get a bad Yelp review for a discount?
Yeah, I'll give you something. Yeah. That's the best way. You go, I had no African cichlids. So you gotta be on Google, and the reason is all the Android phones are gonna pull up this review every time they go, how do I get to Aquarium Co-op? When they hand them that card, whatever it is, and the first impression, you want to see my ugly mug, but then you also want to see like, hey, turns out people might like this guy. And so it's very important, and yeah, you're going to have to beg every single one of your friends, your family, and just get that ball rolling. And then naturally, You know, so it's 64, and then you've got, what, Facebook. And Facebook, everyone's on Facebook, so everyone will leave you reviews. It's also the least used one. No one, not no one, but very few people actually look at it. And so yeah, 250 reviews, but so few people actually use that to choose where they're gonna buy. Unlike Google, where it's the maps, Yelp, where you're actually using the program, stuff like that. And so at the end of it all, you know, this is where we started. We've got nothing. You got a dream. You got a pile of money that seems like a giant pile of money to you that day, maybe. Maybe it's not, but realize it goes crazy fast. Permits will ruin your life. You're going to have disasters. And if everything goes right, you can come speak to a local aquarium club someday and actually get away from your own store for 2 days. And I guarantee you, the minute I'm actually back to my chair, I'll be checking with my team to go, okay, did any disasters happen in the last 3 hours while I was, you know, socializing and stuff like that? And yeah, but I can honestly say, as a fish guy, I am working the job that I love. The thing I think most people don't realize, myself included, that it will be 14 to 18 hours every day. And that sounds like hyperbole to a lot of people, unless you've run your own business or you're really trying to grow it, whether it's fish or not. You know that there's a lot of long hours with the goal of, like right now, I can work less, but I choose not to because I'm trying to do all these extra things and grow new products and do these things. But eventually it'll pay off or you'll get out. There's that too. Sometimes there's a lot of burnout in this industry. A lot of people do it for 5 years, they're not really making that much money, and they go, you know what, I've got a fish store that's my competitor. They became electricians instead because it just pays better. They still physically have a store because now it's like a hobby, but it can be a grind, you know, selling every neon tetra, keeping stuff alive, stuff like that. So, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you call it a co-op, but in your whole conversation here tonight, which was fantastic, I really loved
Well, thank you.
it. But you didn't mention why it's a co-op.
So, I love to tell this story because it's the worst idea I ever had making my business. And so at the start of your business, you got to make paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, all right, you got to tell the state, who am I? And what did I want to do? So I told you what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a sustainable fish store that was fair to employees and do all those things. And the best thing I could think of was, it's like a co-op grocery store. Everyone's pitching in, products might be organic, locally sourced, all that kind of stuff. And so I go, I'm going to be a co-op. And you do a bunch of research and you find out that the legal definition of a co-op is actually 5 or more owners. So I could give my grandma 1% and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm not a legal co-op, but I brought the thought, or at least I thought I brought the thought of, oh yeah, it's going to be like one of those grocery stores. Turns out, every single day, someone calls the store asking if they can get on the wait list. And do we know what we're waiting for? I apparently am a preschool co-op, where you can bring your kids. And so I'm always disgusted at the fact that you want on a wait list for a school and you haven't done enough research to find out we're a retail store, not a school. That's just crazy to me. Because you say like, oh, we're a retail store, and they're like, well, how long's the wait? No, you can come in right now, we're a retail fish store. And they go, oh, I must have the wrong number. Even though they addressed you by Aquarium Co-op and all that. So that was one of my biggest mistakes, trying to explain what we really wanted to do, and it didn't matter. I should have just been like, you know, Cool Fish Store, Bob's Fish Store, Corey's Fish Store. The name actually doesn't matter at all. It's what you build the name with. You know, if I was, mean and I only kept African cichlids, my business is way different than so what I do is actually lots of community fish, planted tanks. We have very soft water out of the tap where I'm from. The TDS is 23, which is not that far off from RO, so it takes a lot to get it to African cichlid water. And in general, the public doesn't want to mess with their water. They go, I want pretty things to swim in water with the least amount of work possible. Right in front.
2 questions. What one product did you think was going to sell a lot and didn't?
Okay.
And conversely, what did you think wouldn't sell, but you just can't keep it on the shelf?
Yeah, so for me, it was all the products that I knew and loved. So like the minute I opened the doors, like I'm ready to marry up to AquaClear hang-on back filters because I think they're the best hang-on back. And I like Hydro sponge filters because I think they're the best of the sponge filters. And it turns out people like whatever's cheapest. Because all the people in the room here, they're going, well, what's my longevity value to the price I'm paying today? The person that walks in off the street is going, yeah, but isn't this one a third of the price? Well, yeah, but it's only going to last, a year maybe, they're like, well, my kid's gonna kill that betta anyway, what do I care? You know, and you get people that say stuff like that, and you're like, well, really, we should try and respect the animals here and maybe not plan for their demise, you know, but you gotta carry some of that stuff. And then the product that sells way better than I ever thought it would have is my own brand of like aquarium fertilizer and stuff like that, because when I was developing it, everyone told me it couldn't be done. And then, so I forced a chemical company, I'm like, I don't care, just do it. And they're like, it can't be done. And yet it works amazing. And now I'm thinking like, I'm pretty sure Seachem knows how to do it. I just think that it's way more profitable to sell someone 5 bottles at $9.99 instead of 1 bottle at $20. And so that was very surprising that people would be willing to back me. And it only happened with YouTube, because if I just, you know, if I hold my soda and I go, this is the best dechlorinator in the world, you're not going to believe me without results. And I was able to show that with online. And so I've been very fortunate that because I thoroughly test every product I bring into my store, especially something I'm developing, because the minute I put out a really bad product, all my credibility goes out the window. Because now they can go, well, I bought 3 different things that are Aquarium Co-Op brand, and they've all been great. If all of a sudden I start going downhill, you got to question everything. So I'm willing to almost sell things at a loss sometimes to keep the quality up if I think the market actually needs it.
So your fertilizers are liquid?
Liquid, yes. Yep.
Why didn't you go dry?
Why didn't I go dry? Because the average person is looking for easy. They're already, you can buy dry ferts, stuff like that. So it's called Easy Green, and it's 1 pump per 10 gallons once a week for low
Can't you
light.
already buy liquid fertilizer too? You're already with
So, okay, so if you buy Flourish, for instance, when you dose the Flourish Comprehensive, it's going to be 1 milliliter per 10 gallons. When you dose the Flourish Excel, it's going to be 2 milliliters per 10 gallons. When you dose the iron, it's going to be a different milliliter. And your average person walks in, they literally go, just sell me and tell me what I need to do to make this work. And so anytime you can delete some of the process for them and make it easier, you will make money. And that's why iPhone became huge. That's why a lot of things have become huge, because you took a nuisance in someone's life and you got rid of it and you made it easy. And a lot of people that use Easy Green, they don't really understand how plants are actually growing and using things. They just know, I put this in and it works. And then they run into the next problem, which that's the next conversation of, well, my plants are doing really well. It's been 3 months. Why are they dying? They've never put any more fertilizer in than they were at the beginning, because they still never learned that if you have 3 times as many plants, you should have 3 times as much food going in, and it's a balance. But that's a better conversation than, well, I get a lot of people that walk in, they have planted tanks, and they put in the dosage of Flourish Excel for planted tanks, and they're not getting good growth. And it's because, well, there's no nitrogen in the water. There's literally nothing, because our tap water has like nothing in it. There's no calcium, no magnesium, there's nothing.
So the niche you found is in ease of use?
Yes. Anytime you can delete the work for people, like all the time people come in and you got to tell them the answer is, you need to go home and change water. And they will look at you straight in the face like, what can you sell me to take care of that problem? There's nothing. There's nothing that's going to solve that problem besides your water change. And it's overworked families. They just got off work, and if this goldfish or this betta or these guppies die, they're going to hear some kids be very disappointed about it for the next week straight, and they just want to buy the answer. And a lot of times it's work and learning, and people are already burnt out at the end of the day and they can't do it. So if you can delete some of that, the person that actually makes a liquid gravel vac that works, and they're like, oh, I put some in, my tank is magically doesn't need water changes anymore. They're a rich person, right? That's why they sell so well, and so many stores have it, which I don't, by the way. But that's why they have it, is because that's the magical thing. I just pour this in, and I don't do work anymore. And so that's why there's a lot of snake oils, in my opinion.
So going back to the whole fish club thing and the relationship, do you have a fish club in your neighborhood, and what's your relationship with it?
So I have the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, and when I opened my store, I stepped off the board of directors because I felt there was a conflict of interest. Anything I'd be making a decision on, all my competitors and stuff would naturally assume I was doing it to benefit me in some way, which I didn't want that extra heat on me, so to speak. So I support my club with 10% off if they bring in a membership card, everything on my store or online. And then I also donate things to the auction. I kind of show up and participate. Like what I do is anything I personally spawn, like in my own fish room, like last week or so I offered up at least a breeding group of everything I spawn for free. Even though I could bring it to my store and just sell it, I still try and treat myself as an actual participant and a hobbyist in the club, because I think it's important to show people It's not all about just the money. I did it because I want a better store and I want to make a better hobby, not just because I want to, get rich. Because the joke goes, how do you make $1 million at the fish store? You start with 2 million. Yeah, 10 million, yeah. It depends on how good or bad you are, I guess. Yeah. Back there.
Can you talk about, you said dehumidification system in your store?
Yeah.
I know you have it in your fish house too.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you evaluate, you know your numbers about how much power it's pulling and how much that costs? And
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So a typical dehumidifier that you're going to buy, let's say off Amazon for $250 or so, that's going to pull maybe 40 pints a day, which will handle pretty much all of your guys' fish rooms. It's going to pull enough power, at least in Washington, to cost about $50 a month. And a lot of people, that sounds like a lot of money. The reality is it makes a bunch of heat as well. So it's also your heat source. And so I can heat my fish room up to about 74 with just the use of a dehumidifier. And in the store, I have a 5,000 watt heater on the wall, but I run 2 dehumidifiers, and that brings most of the heat in the store, and that thing barely turns on. And it's all a perception of your customer. They walk in, and it's super humid, it's super hot. Also, the humidity tends to bring on the fish smell, and you want to gauge your customer when the random person walks in, and it's usually a little kid, just because they go, it smells fishy in here. Okay, I gotta fix this, because that's the general consensus.
It's better than dog hair.
Yeah. So I get a lot of props because I'm a fish-only store, because a lot of people get into fish because they can't keep other pets because of allergies and stuff like that. And I never realized that. When I opened the store, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have a shop dog and all that kind of stuff, and they're actually very thankful that I do only fish. And that wasn't on my radar until I owned my own store. That makes perfect sense. Oh, you're allergic to almost every animal? Fish are your best friend. So yeah. What do you got in front?
How would you recommend making a relationship with your LFS to do breeding fish for profit?
Okay, so I would recommend, one, make sure you're already buying something from them. So they want to know you as yeah, you're the guy that buys this from me, and then you need to breed something. Let's say it's, a cichlid, and you need to, in my opinion, bring them a sample. Well, yeah, it could be an African cichlid. It can be, red zebras, yellow labs, whatever you want. You bring it in, you show them, and you give them, let's say, a group of 6, and you say, hey, I'm making these, I'd like to sell them, maybe try them out if they sell for you, and leave them, ideally you'd have a business card made, but you leave them your information, and if they sell, and they sell tonight, they're calling you tomorrow, because every fish store owner is looking to make more money. But if you go back in a week and they're still sitting there, either A, you're breeding the wrong fish, or B, if you brought African cichlids to my store, it would be the only African cichlid there, and they're not going to sell, unfortunately. But that's the relationship you want to start. Start by, okay, this guy's not trying to just take advantage of me, because every day someone calls the store, have I got the deal for you? I'm going to make you money. I'm going to do this. And the reality is, I'm a sucker for kids, and so typically I'll buy anything they breed because I want to support them. But when an adult comes in, I go, well, let's make this make sense for both parties. Everyone's got to win. If the breeder doesn't make enough money to actually pay for all the expenses and make a little bit of profit, he's going to stop doing it. If the store loses the fish or something like that, and I'm not making money, I'm not going to buy from you again. And if the customer doesn't want to buy the fish, well, then no one's making any money. So everyone in the chain has to win. Otherwise, it's not going to work long term. And so evaluate what is in your local store, and once you're doing it a little bit with them and you're breeding something, they can count on you every week or every 3 weeks. You've got yellow lab chromis for them. Then you can go, what else could I supply you? And then they might go, well, it'd be great if you were doing purple ACI as well. And then you could do that, and that's that working relationship. But at the beginning, every day someone walks into the fish store and goes, what would you buy if I bred it? And you're going, my answer is always everything in the store. I would much rather buy from anyone in this room a fish in my store than overseas. It's less of a carbon footprint. Typically, you're going to be living in the same water, so it's going to adapt easier for my customer and me. And so it's such an open-ended answer of, how about you show me what you can breed, and then hopefully it's something I can sell. So that's what you want to focus on. And, because it doesn't do me any good to tell you, I need you to breed anableps in brackish water, and you're going, I don't even know what those are. And then, brackish water, the four-eyed fish that one of the few libraries I really want to breed still.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a suggestion to make you a better drug dealer.
Good, yes.
So you get these young kids coming in, so nothing personal. You get these young kids, you recognize there's that young kid who comes into your store. Give them a few fish to breed and just say, give me the babies back. The fish are yours for free.
So I do a similar program. Anyone that is younger, I kind of cut it off at about 16 and down. If you come in with a parent and they buy the first fish, I don't care what they are. Let's say you buy 3 guppies and you breed them. I will then allow them to be traded for any other fish in the store so long as the parent and them agree they're going to make a legitimate chance to breed them. And so, because if they're successful with the guppies and then I treat them discus, like, oh geez, like that's a bad deal. But if they breed those discus and then they trade them for swordtails, that's a great deal, right? And so usually when you've got the parent there, they know this is a working relationship. Whereas if it's just the kid, let's say they go, well, I found out discus sell for $40, I'm selling them on Craigslist. Like then the deal broke down, right? So I do run that program, and a lot of times if I'm watching kids bid at an auction and they're getting outbid by an adult, I'll buy them and give them to the kid and say, hey, give me some babies when you make them, because anything you can do to encourage that. Because if I can become the drug dealer at age 10, I've got another 50 years of fish coming my way. So I know the youth is the best for me. And they're going to spend the most money long term. So
you mentioned you were pinching pennies when you first started.
Yeah.
How many employees do you have, and how do you source them?
So at the beginning, it was just me. And then so I learned valuable lessons. People that will work for you for free don't work very hard. And it's not that they didn't work hard, it's that all of a sudden it's like, well, I gotta go here, I gotta do these things. And it's really hard to say, well, I was counting on you to be in the store so I could go to the fish wholesaler and buy fish. And so it was just me for probably the first 8 months or so. And then I brought on a part-time employee. And for me, I've always, well, I won't say always, but I learned now I only hire customers because I already know you before. Because when you put out a general ad, like right now, if I was to put out, like, I'm looking for someone in my store, I'm going to get a lot of submissions from YouTube and stuff like that. And, you know, it's really hard when you put on Facebook even that we're looking to hire someone, and 10 of you guys come up to me and you go, I'd like to work at your store. I now have to crush 9 of you and go, well, you're just not quite the right fit. I don't like you quite enough. And it's a really hard conversation where if I just go, oh, you know, that person in the back room, that's the person I want. Then you approach them like, do you happen to be looking for a job? Are you dumb enough to work at a fish store with me? You know, and you kind of got that vibe like they're either really into it or they're not. And you kind of, you know, I try to evaluate people over long periods of time. And like we grabbed a high school kid and I was just working Saturday and he was telling one of the employees how he's breeding 2 different types of angels and he's got discus eggs, but they keep fungusing on him and stuff like that. And the kid's like in 10th grade. And I'm like, do you need a job? Because I've got a job for you. And we need someone in the warehouse, and that's how I hire. Just go, hey, you know about fish, and you're into it enough to be spawning stuff. Chances are you probably want a 30% discount at the store you're already buying stuff from. And I just so happen to need your skill set. And if you like working here, hopefully we'll train you how to, you know, talk with other customers and stuff like that. And you'll be working right alongside us by the time you're out of high school. So we try to hire from our own customers. And so far it's worked out great. Some of the times when I haven't, it's a mixed bag because no one shows up and goes, I'm going to be lazy and the worst worker you're ever going to hire. Everyone says, I'm a hard worker, I show up on time, I'm good with fish, I love people. You know, you don't show up and say the opposite. So you got to really know them before you hire them. And especially at the beginning, those pennies you're pinching, they hurt so much more when you make the wrong hire. That's the worst part. Is like, you basically just drove that person out of the store, or you didn't make that sale. Like they were trying to hand us money, essentially, and you told them not to. Which brings up another point, and this is the controversial thing with my employees and most people. I say, sell a fish to someone every time. And you guys go on, you'll sell an Oscar to a 1-gallon bowl? Yes, after we've spent like an hour trying to convince them not to. Because after an appropriate amount of time, you've tried to convince them otherwise and why it's a horrible idea. They still really want it. They're just going down to the next street that's going to go, yep, we'll take that $8 for that Oscar. And you may as well recoup the $8 and you know, put that money towards the next employee trying to educate the next person. A lot of people won't sell stuff on a moral high ground. And I've watched people, because they come back in. Here's how, if you open your store, you start out noble, And you go, we're not doing that. And then eventually, 3 weeks later, you're going, yeah, so I got an Oscar in a bowl, and we're having some problems, but how do I fix it? And you go, well, I may as well at least sold you the Oscar if I'm going to do all the support afterwards. And so at least then you can fully warn them. And then when they have problems, you can go, so yeah, we talked about all this, right? Okay, let's try, if it's a 1 gallon bowl, which we don't sell anything under 5 gallons, but I would say, like, okay, let's try some zebra Danios or some White Clouds if you're really married to that bowl, and people are married to those bowls. I've had a bowl on my desk for the past 20 years at work, and it's never been anything else. So you gotta play with the confines you've been given sometimes. So yeah. Yep.
What's your favorite fish to sell?
My favorite fish to sell, I think it's anything that's easy to breed, because if I can get someone to make babies, they're hooked. And so typically it's live bears and stuff like that, but if someone was really into bettas and I sold them Alba marginata, it's a mouth brooder, and then they make baby bettas, they're on top of the world because all of their family, like, did you know my daughter's breeding fish? Like, it's just a really good talking point. Everyone feels good when they've made babies out of fish, and so that's really how you get people hooked. And I just naturally happen to love live bears and stuff, but that's how I got hooked. Black mollies had babies, mind blown. Love after that. Just like, oh, they make more? So yeah, waking up to that was the best day of my life. Well, I think there's other days, best and worst day, but one of the best days of my life. Baby fish, every time. So
what's next for your business?
next for me, I hope to speak a lot more, and I hope to, like, if everything goes amazing and I conquer the world, it would be doing more things like the Amazon Research Center project, helping fund that. We were able to raise, like the store, the community online was able to raise about $1,200 for that. Their goal is $10,000. Basically, a project like that, outreach, because at a certain point, you make enough money to live off of, and then it's either A, you just step away from the business and collect your money, or I hope to stay super active and in it, and I, so far, have always stayed a hobbyist, and I'm afraid the day when I'm not a hobbyist anymore. Like, I meet a lot of fish store owners, or pet store owners, I guess, that sell fish, and they don't have an aquarium at their house. I'm like, how can you even be remotely in tune with what's going on in the hobby if you don't even own an aquarium? And they go, well, I own a whole store full of aquariums. Yeah, but you're not reliving the magic, you're not testing new products, So my goal would hopefully be, do exactly what I'm doing, get a bigger YouTube channel, have enough sales that supports. I definitely want to provide healthcare and stuff like that, but take it where the people need me to take it. And it sounds kind of noble and stuff like that, but honestly, if there comes a day where I'm not making a positive impact and I'm making enough money, I should go do something else if no one wants to, wants me to be around at that point. So once I've made the board and it can run on its own, if I can't do something else that's productive, I've become obsolete. So there's some co-ops and stuff like that of where like stores will get together, group buy, they'll import themselves and then sell at their stores. That makes everyone more money. You get access to other fish that wholesalers won't bring in and stuff like that, but it's really hard for people to set animosity and egos aside to come together. I've got a local store that, I offered to buy with him because he's right down the road, he's a saltwater store. And I was like, yeah, we should, partner up and buy from Seachem direct, us two. And he's like, oh no, I already get enough discount, I'll do it myself. And so now, he actually had to shut down his freshwater side because my freshwater store is doing so well. And so, there's always going to be some bitterness there, but at the same time, I started it, extending the olive branch, like, hey, we should work together. And then, it didn't, he chose not to, and now, you can never say, like, well, I tried, like, I was trying to be friendly, I know no one likes competition, and the problem is when you open up a fish store, if your store, or if your area supports 5 stores and you're store number 6, if you did your job right, you're not store number 6 anymore, because store number 6 goes out of business. And so you don't have to be number 1, but you can't be number 6. And so, you're gonna be someone that's owned a store for 20 years and you're new, you're willing to work 20 hours a day. They're not, because they've kind of made it and, they've gotten complacent where they are and they order from the same vendors and maybe they're not up on this latest thing, the new variant and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of animosity when we kind of had the economic downturn and stuff. Everyone just assumed, oh, I'm taking too much of the business. Like, no, I lost money too. There's only been 1 month since I've ever been open where I actually lost money. And it was like 2 years ago now, where Seattle had less rain than the Sahara Desert. So we are very seasonal. When it's sunny, no one goes to a fish store. I hear down here that you guys will still go on a beautiful day, which seems insane to me. But
We hardly have any local fish stores.
that's the problem. Everyone, kind of says like we're losing our local fish stores, and I find that the people that have been in business for let's say 20 years and they don't have a good website, they don't have a social media presence, they're just losing to online sales and they're blaming them, when in reality they should be retooling and learning. The money's still there. People aren't really spending less money on it. They're just spending it in different places. I'm a perfect example. I will order stuff online all the time from Amazon because it will get here faster than I remember to go buy it from Best Buy or whatever it is. Because I know, oh, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I've already forgotten for 4 days to pick one of those up. If I order it now, it'll be there. And that's why I offer that same service of like, it's not that I don't want to support someone. It's that, I'm flying out to give this talk and I had to order this on Amazon, this little laser pointer, to make sure it got here and I could test it before I gave the presentation, because it's a new laptop and this just for this, because I want it to be lighter because my back hurts. The less I got to carry when I'm slogging through all the fish stores, the better. And because I carry a lot of camera equipment and stuff now, so weight's becoming an issue for the backpack. But at the end of the day, if you're successful, it'll be the best time of your life. And if it doesn't go right, hopefully you didn't take out a giant loan to start the store, and then you just go get what I call a normal people job. And don't get me wrong, I'm envious of a normal person job all the time. Like, wait, at 5 o'clock you actually just went home? You can go do stuff? You went camping last week? Oh my God. There's a lot of things you can't do as a small business owner. And I say can't. You can do anything you want. It's that just know every day you go camping, I'm working twice as hard to make sure I bury you. And I love all my competitors, and they're all super nice people. And I talk the same way on YouTube. The competitors, I tell them, don't get me wrong, I want to be number one, but I want you right below me. I hope you make $1 billion, but I'm making $1,001,000, just so I can go, hey, I'm number one. But we're all feeding families, and we've all got employees living livable wages and stuff like that. Because if we all do our job, most people want more of the pie. What if we just start baking more pies? We get more people in this room. We get more people into the hobby. There's more dollars instead of, I'm just going to get more of the dollars that are available. So, yeah.
It's not true.
We've got time for 1 or 2 more questions.
All right, who's got the best 1 or 2 questions left? All right, you.
Do you sell more fish from your store or from online? Like more money?
So more money, So I pit my 2 teams together. I've got like a warehouse team and I've got a in-store team. And it can go either way each month at this point. I think long-term, online is always going to win because it's just, I could sell to anyone in this room right now where it's unlikely you're going to come to Seattle and buy my retail store. But yeah, we try to make it fun and like right now they have a sales goal and I'm actually building the team back together, so it's like if you guys can do this number, you all get a raise. Everyone on the payroll gets a 25-cent raise if they can beat sales from last month. Even by a penny, that's all it's got to do. And that's can be fairly easy to do, but it builds morale and it makes them work towards it, because otherwise, it's really hard to like, okay, I need you to help move those 40 boxes of dry goods over to the warehouse. Meanwhile, if I come in and I yell like, hey, the tanks haven't been scrubbed, and they're going, well, I was moving boxes you told me to move. And so you get everyone working together when you're doing online and the retail store. And it's rough because, every morning I wake up to 10 emails of people having questions or a product or something's lost in the mail or whatever. And you just want everyone to remain. The employee burnout, what burns people out is the customers. You get 3 customers that are screaming in your face that day, you're ready to quit forever. You're going, this is not worth it. And then you get the whole family comes in and they buy the whole setup, and then 3 months down the road they're breeding something and they love it and you've made an actual hobbyist, and that's what makes it worthwhile. And so you hope that happens more often, because that is the easiest time you ever have in a fish store. And so we try to make it a big deal with kids. They can feed my big puffer fish. We give out sodas and stuff like that if they want them. We try to make it inclusive as much as we can, because kids are great because they're unfiltered. They tell you when your fish store smells like fish. And they also, they'll scream, you got a dead frog right here, throughout the whole store. And then you go over and show them, you're like, look, it's swimming around, but, they're unfiltered, and they're a great tool to let you know how you're doing, and it forces you, oh, you're a cute kid, the last guy just yelled at me for 10 minutes, I'm naturally going to be nicer to a kid than I am the next person who looks just like that guy that got done yelling at me, so, yeah.
Do you do service?
That's a good question. I don't, and this is, all my competitors do. I farm it out. So there's lots of service companies, and I've got a deal with one of them that I get 20% of the fee, and I just refer all the clients to them. So we do none of the work but collect 20% of the profit. Because I used to be a maintenance guy. When I worked and ran a store, I did that on the side because you don't make that much working at a fish store, at least most fish stores. And the hardest part was actually finding the clients. It's everyone, like, if you needed one, where would you call? You call a fish store. Hey, do you know someone that's cleaning? And normally the fish store is doing it, but I've visited a lot of stores now, and their hours are really weird, and they're burning the candles at 3 ends, where they're going, well, I got 6 hours of tanks to clean before I get to the wholesaler, before I get to the store, and on average they're 45 minutes late to a store. That cannot happen. That loses customers more than anything when you're, well, I waited till 12:30, you said you opened at noon. And they don't want to hear the story like, well, traffic was bad, I got caught up, and like, this is the 3rd time. You know, you just lose them to someone that is open. And so, you know, even though business, you know, of servicing aquariums is 100% profit almost. There's so little that goes into it comparatively what comes out compared to selling dry goods. And that's what will keep a lot of stores open. It's better off to either sell it off or work with another store to do that and make servicing your business, or dedicate your time to a retail store. But doing both, you can't expand both of them at the same time. Pretty soon you're taking employees. I watch this happen all the time. You're going, well, I need you to go start cleaning tanks on the side, and then I need you to work in the retail store the rest of the day. And you're putting people all in weird places, and you know, and you're not really spending all the time training them to become a great salesman because they're half of a great serviceman or woman. So, all right, I think we've got an auction to get underway, and we've got a raffle and all kinds of good stuff.
Give them another round of applause. That was a great presentation. I don't know if we went to Wharton School of Business or not, but Marketing Business 101, 102.